Hello, and welcome to this first video on chapter 6 of Heidegger's Being in Time. This chapter called Care as the Being of Dasein. And I say the first video because I already know that I will split this up into two videos because it will need to, we need to do it that way, I believe. And it's not really a good, should I say, it's not a good choice of title name for this chapter, in my opinion. Care as the Being of Dasein, because it does deal with what Heidegger means by care, but it also deals to a very large extent about something else that is interesting enough to warrant its own chapter, in my opinion. So I don't know why Heidegger chose to do it this way. Maybe that he didn't have enough to say about this topic of care, perhaps, or it was just maybe it was just a sort of disorganized writing process altogether, because it is a bit messy, I would say, this book. So yeah, we'll just talk about, first of all, in this video, this concept of care and the concept of anxiety. And as with most of Heidegger's work, the words care and anxiety don't actually mean what we usually think of as care and anxiety. But he has a very specific, or he has his own way of using them. So it starts off this chapter by asking that all of the concepts and existentials that he has introduced so far, he has only really dealt with them individually. But can we ever get to Dasein as a whole? Can we experience Dasein as a whole with all of these parts combined? This understanding and thrownness, and the being there, and the being with others, and significance, and attunement, and all of that stuff. Is there a way to actually grasp that as in experience? Because after all, he is working with this field of phenomenology, and phenomenology is supposed to be about what we can experience in some sense. I'm still not completely sure what phenomenology is exactly, but that seems to be part of it. So can we get all of this stuff as a whole in experience? Heidegger claims that we can get a sense of this, although not directly. We're gonna get a sense of it by losing it. So it's a case of you only know what you have until you've lost it. And the way that we lose all of this wholeness is in a specific mood or a specific attunement that Heidegger calls anxiety. And in this mood he calls anxiety, I can't pronounce this. He means something, a state of mind, or no, it's not a state of mind for him, because it's pre-psychological, I think, in his case, he would think. It's like this attunement is more primordial than just feelings, right? But this attunement, it is a state where everything loses its relevance, it loses its mattering, it loses its significance. But even though we're in this condition where nothing really matters, we still sort of try to care, I guess you would say. And that sort of creates this uneasiness within this anxiety, that you're trying to care for something out there, but it has no significance. So what do you like? That's a very strange state. And it does say that this state is not necessarily common or something that everyone, I'm not sure he would say that everyone even has experienced it. He says so in Being in Time, but also in his lecture series, this called What is Metaphysics? He mentions it briefly there as well, that this is something that is rare and happens even only momentarily, like just a few, just like almost like a flash. But in that short, I guess, intense experience, you get a sense of losing this wholeness, and in that losing, you get well, like I said, you sense what you have lost, and what you have lost, he calls the structure of care. Now, it is a bit difficult to say what he adds by using this word care, other than to have some word to tie this all together. Just to have a placeholder to say that all of these things are meant to be worked to become a whole in the end. But by adding the word care, it's not super obvious what we are actually adding that the parts themselves have not already given us. And he mentions, for example, where he mentions the example of a story from, I believe, something really related to Faust. I don't remember exactly right now, but some fable that I don't have any clue what it really means. I didn't understand it, so I don't know if there's some like some cultural significance of this story. If you've grown up in a culture that makes use of it, that you're missing something, maybe. He also mentions like care in another story of the Earth and Saturn, and that something about the Earth or that something about life on Earth is being named care, and I don't know what that adds. The cultural meaning is lost on me, which is a bit yeah, it's just unfortunate that it feels like there should be more there, but from what I've read, like outside of Being in Time also, there's not a lot to add to it, I feel. It's so I guess there is one thing that he wants to say with all of this, that the being of Dasein is care, and care is constituted by all of these things, as like I mentioned, thoroughness, understanding, being there, being with others, and it's all part of some sort of engagement with the world. And he wants to say that being engaged with the world is the core of our being, which then means that you are never truly disinterested in the world as a human or as Dasein. So there is no like he doesn't go into this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he thought that it's impossible to have a sort of completely objective and disinterested view of reality. You always come into the world or into being with some care. There is something that matters in a certain way to you, and you cannot help that. So that's one thing. There's also the distinction between care and these other words that are perhaps associated with care that he mentions, that are the words are or the concepts are willing, urge, and wishing. So, for example, it's someone like Schopenhauer. I guess you would have guessed, or I guess Schopenhauer believed. I haven't read him, but directly, but I know of him, and he seemed to believe that we are, I guess, we are will at bottom. But Heidegger wants to say that will is something that is rooted in care and not the other way around. And what that means is that it's not that your will is that sort of the base of your being, and that's at bottom what it's directing you in the world or in your being or whatever. But it's that what you even perceive as a possibility of willing, given where you are in the world, given your understanding and your attunement and your projecting of yourself into the future, that structure is what gives you these possibilities of willing. But the structure comes first, and then or it's primordial, and then it's out of that willing is then becomes possible. So it would be suitable here for Heidegger to discuss the idea of having the will being free or not, which he doesn't really do. So we would definitely do have some. Well, we have options for Heidegger with all these different possibilities. The world is not, or your trajectory is not like a single, like a set line of like one possibility, but it clearly projects like different futures into the future. But they are constrained by your history and where you are in the world, and the attunement which can be a function of your culture which you inherited from. So that's will, and then wishing is, he says, is basically that wishing is willing when it has been taken over by the they. So it's sort of willing that has sort of lost itself in the masses or the group, and it's no longer actively taking charge of itself, sort of. And we are not a pure urge. Although I'm less sure what he means by urge. It sounds a bit like it's relating to like biological drives or something like that. And he wants to say that, well, those are not as primordial as care. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say on this part of chapter 6. The next part that I will be making a separate video on is a lot more interesting to me, and it will need to do some more thinking, I think, to figure out what I want to say about it, because there Heidegger finally deals with the problem of reality and the external world and truth. So this is a really interesting chapter, I think. But yeah, I will deal with that in the next video. So thanks for watching.